Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today, I have another great podcast for you all about PR, getting published, and press. But this time, it's not just me talking aloud on my experiences. It's actually with a professional expert guest. I am interviewing Natalie Norcross. Natalie is really experienced. She literally had her own interior design business for many years that she built and scaled and then sold before starting her own PR agency. I mean, talk about amazing entrepreneur spirit. Natalie is an innovative and clearly very driven entrepreneur. She knows the public relations world inside and out. She has over 20 years of experience to help interior designers. She helps lifestyle brands, startups. Because she has an in-depth understanding of the design world from having her own design business, she can help designers, stagers, architects, you name it, build their brand awareness and secure powerful press placements. We talk about the top 5 publications that most designers ask to get featured in. And she has a company called A Design Partnership. She has a multifaceted approach. We talk in this interview about strategy, about how you can take one piece of content and you can repurpose it. And I love her message at the end, and I'm not going to give it away, but sort of this idea of how to transform your business by being kind. I think it's a really useful episode for especially those designers that want to get published, don't really know where to start or what matters. One of my favorite parts is where we talk about the digital world of press versus the print world. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. There is literally nothing better than staying in my abode all-day PJs, all day. These beauty, buttery, soft pajamas come in 3 fabulous colors, and trust me, you will never want to take them off. Check them out at lovemyabode.com and type in Resilient10 to get $10 off your very first order. Okay, we are live. Look at that. Thank you for joining me today on the podcast, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me, Rebecca.
Why don't you introduce yourself to my audience in your own words?
Wonderful. Yes. So I'm Natalie Norcross, CEO and founder of A Design Partnership, and we are a full service public relations and social media agency that serves the interior design and home industry.
Awesome. Do you want to maybe break that down a little bit? Because that sounds like a lot. What is this?
Yeah. So we pretty much help clients to get published. So we create, unique communication strategies directly for our designers and kind of outline what that looks like in terms of getting their projects published or getting them profile features or things of that nature. And then we work a lot with designers and home brands that serve the home community.
So, I mean, would you say that you are a publicist?
Yeah, I mean, we are a PR agency. We have a team of 25 on our team. So,
okay,
yes.
Because the only reason I ask is that's the terminology that I'm familiar with. But I just recorded it. Actually, it's live on the podcast. An episode all about my experience working with PR agencies. Actually, because I've worked with a couple. And it was really well received because designers are so curious about getting published, getting their name out there, their brand. So I'm excited to have this conversation because I think that was the episode that I did was just me talking. So it'd be nice to actually have a real expert in that area. Share your wisdom.
Yes, I love it. Absolutely. That's great. How was your experience working with an agency?
I've worked with two different ones, vastly different experiences, both great. What it's taught me, it's no different than the interior design industry, is that there really doesn't seem to be one way of doing things. Everyone kind of has their own take on PR. One agency was very hands-on, like in person, really hustled, got me really elevated my brand, I think, locally, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other agency has been a lot more digitally focused. And I want to have that conversation with you, but digitally focused and a little bit more global, a little bit more North American. My biggest learning, and I shared this in that podcast, and I'll find what that number was. People can go back and listen to it. But my biggest learning was you have to know what your end game is. Like you need to know what you want. And I'm curious your thoughts on that. But because when I first started working with a publicist, I just wanted to be known. I just wanted to get clients. Like I didn't really have a goal for it. And then when I worked with the second agency, I was much more specific about what I wanted to promote, the type of client I wanted to attract, and the message I wanted to get across. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's a little bit more fulfilling and that was my experience, when you know more specifically what you want to get out of it. Like, What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, every client has kind of their own success metric. So we go through kind of a series of questions, especially in the beginning, to really understand, every client's goals and what it is that they would like to achieve. And then from there, we kind of look at what is the end game? Where do you want to be, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and then back that out into a success metric that makes sense for them. Because for some clients, it really is, getting more local, regional clients. So really focusing on their regional market and expanding their expertise in their regional market. And other clients, it's like, I have more business than I can handle. I actually am doing, 40 projects a year, and all of them are, $100,000, $200,000 budgets. I would really, rather work with less clients that are better quality. And so in that instance, we kind of look at, okay, so, backing that out into, for them, it probably equates to a lot of national press, and helping to build that credibility and looking for, high quality press that might be in, the certain types of publications that their ideal client would read, especially if they're serving high net worth individuals, looking at kind of, high net worth publications, whether it be online or print, that, really speak to that client as well. So, we kind of take a unique approach in the fact that we really focus on the client, their success metric, and then back it out.
I love that term, success metric. I think that's really clever and interesting, because I don't know that I've ever had someone sort of sit down with me and say like, okay, let's look at where's your ideal client. I mean, I talk about it in my courses with my design students. I'm like, you need to know who your ideal client is. Where are they? What are they reading? Like, look on their coffee table. Are they reading Zoomer magazine? Like, what is it that where are they spending their time? But I think that's so clever to actually, so do designers come to you and say, I want to get an Architectural Digest?
Every single one. Yes. We always ask, what are the top 5 publications that you'd like to be published in? And 95% of the time it is AD. Like, I want to be an Architectural Digest.
Totally. So What are the top 5? Like, what are the most common?
The most common is AD, Elle Decor, House Beautiful, Veranda, Vogue Living, kind of all the big top ones.
The big ones,
of course. Yeah. But I love what you're saying about kind of niching down. We actually have a free download on our website called Nail Your Niche Formula. And it's a formula that really helps you to focus on who is my niche market, who is my ideal client, what does that client look like? And then knowing that is really helpful, because you can create all of your marketing surrounding that. You can create all of your social media content around that. You can really lean into PR that speaks to that, client avatar. So I think that's a really important part of running a business is, kind of like what you said, knowing who that ideal client is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's awesome. What's the website so people can go to it?
Yes. If you go to www.adesignpartnership.com. On the top navigation, there is a link to resources. And that's where, our PR marketing teams have created a lot of free resources and free downloads And that's one of them. That's really great. There's also a photo shoot guide on how to optimize your photos in order to get, the highest value PR for your projects.
Ooh, I love that. I think that's something like photography is definitely, well, obviously you need photography, first of all, right?
Yeah.
So actually, let's start there. Like if somebody is thinking, oh, I want to work with a PR agency, what do they need? Do they need to have a big, vast portfolio? Like, what are you looking for to help really get, to help you make your job, I guess, a little bit easier?
Yeah. I mean, we like to say, content is king, right? So we can't tell a story without showing your projects and the style and, what it is that you've already done and what you've already created. So in our initial consultation, we do kind of dive into an understanding of your assets and going through kind of a brand audit of how many assets that you have. High-res photography is one thing that is super important. Also having really good headshots or lifestyle shots of you for any profile stories, kind of establishing you as an expert, positioning you as an expert in outlets like, Business of Home or 80 Pro or speaking on other podcasts so that, we can pitch those profile stories or those founder stories. And then, really having information about your projects is important. So we have a few forms that all of our clients fill out that gives us a lot of information that we need in order to, do a full PR and social media program.
Would you say, did most designers have headshots?
Most of them do, not all of them do. I do like to recommend that if you are doing a photo shoot in a home, I think oftentimes, designers are really busy doing the installation, getting the house ready. And then, by the time they photograph, they don't necessarily want to get themselves ready. But it is really important if you also, are in some of your photos, having those lifestyle shots that are actually in situation, like a kitchen or a living room or a bedroom is also really nice beyond just kind of a regular headshot.
Yeah, totally. For so many years, I would see magazines and I would see the designer in this space. I'm like, oh, that's so nice that the magazine takes pictures with the designers in the space. And then I realized most of the time, the magazine's already been taking the pictures. They are pictures that you have to take with your own photographer. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should do this. But it's kind of an uncomfortable thing to do, I think, for most designers. Even I find it uncomfortable. It's about, like you say, it's all about the space. And you're set up that day and you're schlepping. And it's a really, you're a workhorse on those days, right? And you're trying to get the perfect shot. And then it's like, oh, wait, I have to be in it. And I want to make sure that my outfit's on point and my makeup. Do you help designers with that? Do you ever give them guidance on how to do a photo shoot with lifestyle images of themselves so that it's on brand?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we also help our clients with photographing projects as well. So before, as you're wrapping up, especially for our clients with their big signature projects, as you're wrapping up a project, they send our team scouting shots of the project, as well as a list of, the top publications they would love for it to be in. And then we typically will suggest stylists and photographers for that project that, would make the most sense for that project in order to gain or get that press.
So what do you say if the client sends you a project and you think, this project is not going to make it in those top 5 magazines?
Yeah, I mean, we're super transparent. So we do kind of create a PR plan for every project. So once, you go through the photo shoot process, get us the high-res images and the project description form, we review all of that and then come back with a PR plan for each project and really explaining, the media outlets that we think that this would be best suited for in order of priority. And then we pitch it out. So we love transparency. We're super honest with our clients. Sometimes they might submit something that they want a full home tour and we can really only leverage it for trend stories. And so, we tell them that we're going to be leveraging this project in this way and, for this purpose. And it also helps them along the way to understand what to photograph, when to photograph, what types of projects that they, should be onboarding and working on in order to get that high level press as well.
Oh, that's so interesting. So you can help them and say, I don't know, kitchens are out, which is probably not true, but you could say like, maybe stop getting just kitchens. Let's do, I don't know, a new build, or what's the thing? What is the thing that the big magazines are looking for besides beautiful design, obviously?
Yeah. I mean, I think a good story too, right? Like one of our directors said it best the other day, like we lead with an image, but we back it by a story, right? So if it is a unique story about the client or how you were able to accomplish a design challenge, or you were able to incorporate sustainable design, or, this family might have had a lot of pets. And so they need a lot of wear and tear between children and pets. So, ultimately we lead with an image, but we do back it with a story.
Yeah. And that's where I think like your role, from my experience, what I've seen is I'm speaking to you, but I'm assuming that is your expertise, that, a publicity agency or whatever you want to call it, PR, is gifted at taking the information the designer has about the story of the family, or family friendly. It's sustainable. I know a lot of our projects, we try to be very sustainable. So we're making conscious choices here and there. And you provide that information, and then the publicist, like you guys know how to, for lack of a better term, spin it in a way. Right? And say, well, this is really a color story, or this is really about storage. Can you give me a little bit more about this? Because that the magazines are like you are that you're like, it's like you're dating and you're the matchmaker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, exactly. And we also know what they're writing about, when they're writing about it. We're very familiar with their editorial calendars. We're very familiar with, what editors like and don't like. And so with that, we are able to kind of go through all of that, dissect out the information that's going to make the most sense, and then kind of piece it together in a really great strategy that ultimately garners great press.
Totally. So what would you say to a designer who's listening right now and is like, I really want to get published, but I don't think I can afford to hire a PR agency?
I would say, reach out, because sometimes I think, designers think that it's going to be more expensive than it really is. For us, we actually have a few different levels of programs. So we have our full service programs where we're, literally working with the client and doing all of the legwork. But we also have project placement programs. We have DIY programs where we give you all the tools you need to get yourself published. So there's a lot of different levels of, PR. And I always like to urge clients, like the sooner that you get into PR, I think the better it is for your brand, because, really content is oxygen, and it's another layer of content that you can use to really, blow out your business and allow you to focus on the types of clients that you really would like to work with. Yeah,
I really like that. I'm writing that down. Content is oxygen. Without it, you will die.
Yes.
As a designer. That's amazing.
Yes.
Oh my God. That's gonna be like the name of the episode, I think. Something like that. That's so good, Natalie. Self-publishing, I guess it's like anything. You can do anything yourself as long as you give yourself the time to educate yourself on how to do it, and you have to take the time to do it. Like for so many years, I remember I still have somewhere in my office pinned to a board, I have a list of all these design publications, the editors and all the names, and I'm sure it's outdated now, but especially with this whole great resignation, everyone's probably shifting around in that industry too, I don't know. But do you think I ever reached out to like one of them? I was too busy doing the design, like talking to the clients, like doing all the work, and it would always fall off my to-do list. Because it felt like something that I knew it was gonna move the needle, but I have to sit down and I have to like find this person, and then you have to follow up. And that's something I've noticed that like PR agencies are really good at, that I personally am terrible at, is like the power of the follow-up, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about that, because just because you reach out once doesn't necessarily mean A, that someone's even read your email, or B, that they don't want you. There's so much power in like following. I mean, I imagine that you guys do a lot of that, a lot of back and forth, a lot of reminding, hey, don't forget this. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, follow-up is really important, and kind of just staying consistent. I think the other thing that you mentioned that's just as important is consistency. Consistency is really important in making sure that you're kind of regularly, proactively, pitching new projects and new angles and new ideas and, new opportunities. And thankfully, there's a lot of really great design and home publications, really across the US and Canada. And so there's a lot of opportunity to look at, trend stories and all different, ways that you can kind of get published. We, as an agency, kind of have a unique approach in the fact that we pitch our clients in 4 different areas. So the first area that we pitch is the overall brand, the overall company itself. The second area that we pitch is the designer as a front-facing founder and expert in industry for profile stories on them. And then the third area that we pitch are all of their projects. And we really try to leverage their projects for as much press as possible. A good example of that, we had a client had a beautiful home. We pitched it out. Lux picked it up. They did a 6-page spread. As soon as that story went live, we pitched that same project out and it got picked up 60 more times. And a lot of people are like...
How many more times? Sorry, how
60.
many?
60.
60?
Yes.
Holy, you guys are good. Wow.
Yeah. And that's
amazing.
obviously best case scenario, but we've had a lot of projects get picked up, 10, 20, 30, 40 more times. So we really want to kind of leverage your projects for as much press as possible. And then the fourth area that we pitch are trend stories. There's quite a lot of trends happening all the time, furniture trends, rug trends, lighting trends. But the idea is we want to get, all of our clients pretty well published month over month. So we want the little features, the little mentions, the big features, the big mentions, the online, the print, the national, the regional, because it creates kind of a layered strategy.
Yeah, and that's something that I learned from my very first experience was how layered it is. But what you said about the getting published multiple times, 60 though, man, that must be a record. That's amazing. But,
Thank you.
But is that you can, I think a lot of designers don't know this. You can have one beautiful space, you can have it featured in one publication, and then it can still be featured. It still has life to it.
Yes.
Right. And it gets spliced and maybe it's a different story and maybe it's just the bathroom this time. Maybe it's a trend story. Maybe it's about the family. Maybe it's about the founder. I don't know. There's a million ways you guys can pitch it. Obviously, at least 60 ways. And I think that's where people you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think designers worry they don't have enough work. And yes, you want to continually bring in fresh projects and work that you can pitch. But one great piece of work can go a really long way.
Yes, absolutely. And we don't just leverage projects. We also kind of lean on those other 4 pillars of communication. So because of that, we've had some clients that might not have a new project come online for another year because it takes so long to finish and wrap up projects. So, the idea is we really just want to get them published pretty regularly, month over month.
So let's talk about the debate that all designers talk about, print versus web. What are your thoughts on getting published in, paper print magazines, traditional, versus online? Some designers are like, print only, print is the way. I don't care about online. Other people say online's the best for SEO. I'm super curious what you have to say about, because I know the trends, things are changing, right? The world is changing every day.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, print versus web / combination of both?
Yeah, great question. If I had a design firm today, I would stay extremely focused on digital only because I personally love analytics. So I love being able to see how much traffic is coming to the site from all the articles and how much my SEO. And online with digital, you can actually do follow links. You can click through, you can get traffic to your website. It helps increase your SEO, all of those things, right? So that would be my personal answer. Most of the time with all of our clients, we do online and print. So we're always pitching short lead, long lead. And I think having ultimately for a design firm to have a really robust strategy and a good PR campaign includes digital and print and a good mix of both, as well as national and regional. We just got one of our clients on the cover of Texas Living magazine, which is a really, great opportunity for them in their regional markets. And so, ideally having that layer again of digital and print makes the most sense for all clients.
That's interesting though that you say that. It makes sense. I don't think I thought about it on the surface level, but the analytics side of the digital is very powerful. Like the thing for me with digital, initially it was always print, a little bit of digital. And I feel like now I'm getting a lot more digital than print. How does that work if your business is local? Like if you are a regional business and you don't want to go out of state or you don't want to go out of city, how does that, is it still useful to have all this digital press? Because if somebody finds you and they're in Australia, you can service them maybe, but maybe that isn't where you want to go. How does that play into it?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think ultimately having that layered strategy makes the most sense. So having the digital, having the print, having the regional, sometimes someone in Australia might, run across someone else who is building in your area, or a lot of our designers are now creating shop stores online and e-commerce stores. And so, there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of create multiple revenue streams for a business or a brand. And so I think, having a good mix of the digital and the print is great. Print is also really nice to get multiple copies of, as you go and meet with new clients, leaving them as leave behinds, keeping them in your office for when clients come in and see that you're published there. So that's also kind of nice to have the print with the digital as well.
Yeah, I'm looking over in my office. I have a table full of magazines that are have sticky notes on them, featured 2017, 2018. And I don't know what to do with them because I don't want to throw them out. And some of them are little things, right? Some of them are just this is an entryway, tips, 3 tips to style an entryway, or one of those stories. But I don't know what to do with it. And I probably have the PDF in my Dropbox. But there's something I think for designers, and maybe it's changing with the younger generation, and maybe you can speak to that. But I certainly came up in a world where print magazines were everything. Mm-hmm. When I was in university, high school, when I was preteen, it was, what was that it was all magazines. It was YM magazine, 17 magazine.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't, I guess the internet existed. I don't even know if it existed back then. I don't know. I sound really old right now, and I'm only 41. But I feel as though it's changing. And so I think we're in a really interesting time in the world where it is a little bit of both. It is this sort of transition, but then there's the old school mentality, people like me, and I know a lot of designers who think this way, where there's just something, there's this cachet to mm-hmm. getting printed in paper magazine or newspaper.
Yeah.
But maybe it doesn't go as far as we think it does.
It does. We, a few months ago, had a client that was in Modern Farmhouse magazine, and they just landed one of the biggest clients that they've ever landed by somebody that, saw them in that publication and said, I love this design. I want this in my house. And she was on the East Coast, and this particular family was building in San Diego, California. So, with print, you definitely can get really great clients from it as well. You just might not be able to track the analytics. And of course, always asking new potential leads, where did you hear about me or how did you find me, is really important as well. But I do have a really good suggestion for you for all of your print publications.
Please tell me. Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
We had one client who actually framed all of them with really beautiful mats and frames around them, and then had this whole wall. So when you first walked into their office, it was just this whole beautiful wall of all the times that they've been printed. I loved it. I was this is so cute. Of course, the designer is going to come up with this really beautiful, creative way of.
That's a good idea. I've thought about putting some cover features, but then I was well, is it too much to be ooh, look at us? But I am proud of the work that we've done. So that could be, I like the idea. Maybe we do have a really big wall in the entry of our studio. I'll take a picture and send it to you if we do it.
Yes, please do. I love it.
We'll see if we find someone who can have the time to do that this summer for sure.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to say something when you mentioned that story about your client who, your client who got a client from Modern Farmhouse, that, it speaks directly to what you were saying about niching down. Like, to me, that is specific. You know your style. You want to do probably more of that style. So those are the magazines, because you're right. Like, I think about people going to the airport or like going to the drugstore and you pick up a magazine. I mean, we're building a farmhouse right now, and I'm even going and buying just the magazines that reflect styles that are that style I want to do, as opposed to maybe picking up Elle Decor.
Right.
Right. And it's super niche. So someone who's building a modern farmhouse and picks up a modern farmhouse magazine and sees something that's just absolutely what they want, why wouldn't they call that person? So I think getting really clear on your design style too is probably helpful.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think niche marketing is really, really valuable, because it, like we were talking about how, content is oxygen. It really allows you to look at all the layers of your content and speak to that target market in everything that you do. So whether you're creating a social post or you're creating an email blast or you're pitching a, project, it really helps you to define kind of that, target market and know like who you're speaking to and who your ideal client is. Like, your ideal client might not be a 75-year-old retired person. It could, your ideal client might be 30 to 50 or, things of that nature as well. So I think it's important to really focus on your niche and nail down that niche.
The riches are in the niches, they say. I have to say, though, as a designer, I always really struggled with that sort of term, because I think sometimes we, especially as women, we want to please everybody, and we want to be people pleasers, and we want to help. And I just had a conversation with a designer on my Instagram Live today, and she was saying, like, I just want to help everybody that comes my way. And I get that, because you want people who want your service and you want to help them. But if you don't know specifically the type of client that you really want to work with, you're going to keep helping a little bit of everybody. And it might spread you really thin. It might mean your design aesthetic is all over the map. It might mean the amount of money you're collecting is all over the map. And it can just really kind of tire you out, right? And run you down.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a really good story. I started my career as an interior designer. I had a successful design firm doing high-end residential and hotels internationally. And I hit kind of this plateau in the design business where we were working on 20 projects. We were running around just trying to serve everybody's whim and need. And at one point I just said, wow, I don't know how long we can run on this hamster wheel, but we're all running and like, it just keeps going. And we're like going to run ourselves, down to the ground. Like, I don't know what to do. And so, I hired a business consultant and business coach, and we came up with a strategy of like, we could hit the same revenue target with 5 clients. And so we literally nailed down who is our niche, who is our ideal client, what is their budget. And then we only said yes for the next year to those clients. And we were able within a year to transform the business from 20 to 5 and hit same revenue, serve more quality better than running around trying to serve everybody's little whim. We couldn't do that with 20, but with 5, we could do it, and we could actually do it really well and build great relationships with each client and serve them extremely well.
Oh my God, I love that story. That's like every designer's dream. It's what we talk about all the time. And we're going through that right now. So I have a question for you as it pertains to that, because it's scary to think I'm going to say no to a job because it doesn't fit this criteria. I know we're kind of veering a little bit away from PR, but I just stay with me here, because I know a lot of designers think this, and I often teach this in my courses where, you need to figure out who your client is, trust your gut, and if there's a red flag, you need to say no. But it's hard. Right. It's one thing to see a red flag, but there's also money attached to that red flag, so it can be very scary to say no, because our industry can be a little bit up and down. There are seasons, and so what do you do if you don't have a lot in the pipeline? You say no. Do you just hold out and wait?
Yeah,
how does that work?
We ended up getting pretty lucky in the fact that we created, the way we were able to do it is through PR. And that's the reason why I love PR. I don't think that there's any other way to really flip your business over in that way, unless you have a very strategic PR campaign behind it in order to do that. So you can focus on quality instead of quantity. But ultimately, we got really lucky in the first couple of months. We landed 2 big jobs, and that was like enough to kind of sustain through 6 months. So we didn't really need to land like another big job for 6 more months. And so we just worked like those, next 5 months on getting our 3rd client, and then our 4th client, and then our 5th client. And so ultimately, that's the easiest way, obviously, for to do it. And we were very fortunate that we were able to kind of land 2 pretty big jobs right in the beginning. And then from there, it was like, no, 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 no. And I actually had another interior design agency that was a little bit younger than us that I referred a lot of those leads to. And so I think that's also just a great way of kind of giving back to the community and saying, I can still help you, but like, I personally can't help you, but here's someone that can, right? So you're talking about the client you were speaking with earlier that was like, I just want to help everybody. You still can, but you just have to think of a new way of helping them. It might not be bringing them into your, circle, but giving them to someone else's circle.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. That is a way that you can help them. I never thought of it that way. That's so brilliant. Because also, you may not end up helping them much if you take on too many projects, like you said, and you can't service them to the ability that you would want to. So you're not giving your best. I mean, we just had to refer a repeat client of ours to other designers because they don't have the budget to really do what we do now. And that was really hard for me because part of me was like, well, I've worked with them before. We'll just have to find a way. But I've learned in my experience, I'm trying to remind myself that's a red flag. Anytime I'm like, well, I always regret it.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
So I'm super curious because I'm kind of going through this right now where we are trying to shift our focus of our design firm because I have the coaching business now. I have the podcast. I have so many other endeavors that excite me and light me up. Probably similar to you. You sort of fell in love with the PR side of things. And so I want to free up my time. But what that looks like is not growing this firm with like 15 designers servicing 25 plus projects. It's let's narrow it down, get really clear on who we want to serve and only handle like a handful of projects a year at a certain value, right? So that PR shift, because I know a lot of designers listening right now want that. They want fewer projects that are bigger because then they get to be more creative. There's a healthier budget to really work with the fabrics they want, or they want to do a new construction. And so what are some tactical kind of PR moves that you did to get the word out about your sort of new way of doing things?
Good question. Yeah. I mean, if you're not already getting published, then regional and national PR will definitely help with that. Because, as clients see that you're published in national publications, it helps to kind of build that third-party recognition and just kind of naturally elevates the brand. And it builds trust. So, if you're published in House Beautiful, clients think, wow, they're published on these top publications. They must be, expensive. They must know what they're doing. So it already helps to kind of establish the trust with having the national press. And then a really good target on your regional publications, meeting each region that you serve. Some of our clients are national, so they kind of fly across the country, or they can work, remotely. Others, only serve a small little regional area. So really kind of diving into that regional market, establishing you as an expert in that region and all of the lifestyle publications, both online and print. Speaking at local events and things of that nature, and then as you get press, kind of filtering all that press through a marketing system. And ideally, you have a marketing ecosystem for your business already established so that you can take all of those PR articles and then, push them through your marketing ecosystem.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm still trying to get better at. I say all the time, I'm like, we're getting published. So we're paying a publicist to get our name out, to get our spaces out. And then we post it once on social media. Like, what? Like, we need to get way better at, I think that's what you're talking about with like the marketing ecosystem. Like, you get published. Well, what do you do with that? And like, that's incredible. So much has gone behind getting published. You need to use it and rejig it the same way probably a space can get reused and rejigged, I would imagine, right? Because probably posting just once on Instagram doesn't do it justice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a free giveaway for all of your listeners. If anyone wants to email me, I do have a leverage your press PDF, and more than happy to share it with you or anybody else who wants to read it. It's just a small little simple ebook on, if you already are getting press, how to leverage that press to get, more press. Or feel free to email me and I'm happy to share our photo shoot guide on, making sure that you have the best photos for PR.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So they have to email you? Because I'm going to email you for this. This is really good.
Yes. Yeah. So
I need a guide for my team because I'm always like, we just figure we need to do something. And then we get so busy. Everyone gets so busy, as you know.
Yes.
It's always like the last thing and it falls off. But then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't have any leads. Because I got so busy running inside my business, I forgot to promote it. And here we are we're twiddling our thumbs waiting for the next job. Okay, so how do we get this? We email you?
Yes, my email address is natalie@adesignpartnership.com. And it's NATALIE @adesignpartnership.com.
Oh, that's easy. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good name. So what happened to your design firm? Because now you are doing PR. Does your design firm still exist or did you transition away?
Yeah. So in May of 2008, I sold my design firm. In October of 2008, the economy crashed. So I started having designers and architects ask if I can help them with marketing and PR, which is how the agency was born. And now we're here working with, wonderful interior design and architecture firms, mainly in the US, Canada. We have a few international, and then we have a brands team that works with all of our brands.
That's so cool because I think everybody would love to know too, how did you sell your business? I feel like that's a whole other podcast.
Yes.
That's amazing. And is it still running today, the design firm?
It is. Yes, it's still running today. I actually read an amazing book that I read every once in a while still called Built to Sell. It's a really wonderful book on just kind of learning how to build a business in order to sell it.
Okay, I'm writing that down. That's a good one. I feel like I've heard about that. So I know a lot of people, like this is a whole other topic, but the whole idea of an exit strategy, like you actually did it. You're one of the few people who actually exited.
Yes.
Built to sell. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. What else? Is there anything else? I mean, our time is wrapping up, but I want to give you a chance to share any last nugget of wisdom. Or is there anything else you feel that our audience can benefit from?
Yeah. So I've been really excited about this idea of creating a kindness business. And so one of the ways that you can think about how do I create a kindness business for myself is, kind of just checking in with your business and seeing, what if you created kind of an internal culture, whether that be with yourself or your team, that was so caring and so nurturing and kind to everyone on the team that they all served your customers with kind of that same caring, nurturing kindness. And to kind of just think through, like, how would my business look different? How would my processes and my systems look different? How would I market different? What would you have to kind of change in your business to create a kindness business? And so I like the idea of just thinking of some core nuggets in terms of being genuine, being authentic, and then being kind so that you can create a kindness business.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Oh,
I was just saying today, with everything that's going on in the world, imagine if women were the leaders of all these countries. We would not be at war. We would be very kind and nurturing. I'm sure there'll be all kinds of other issues, but we would not be killing each other. We would be kind. Yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh, a kindness business. I think there's a lot to take away from today's conversation. I know that a lot of designers really are hungry to get the word out about their services. They want the recognition, they want the press, and back to what you were saying before about how to show up, how to attract those clients. When you show up with your publicity, when you attract those clients, when they see you nationally, it brings you to another level. And that's something that I personally saw. And I did see that I did talk about it, in the podcast. Sorry, I did see what number it was. The one that I talk about, my experience working with the publicist, is episode 93. So if anyone who's listening wants to go back, you can listen to that. It's just me talking about my experience. But I noticed a shift for me personally when I started getting published. It was like the magazines were the authority. And now clients or potential clients saw that and they're like, oh, well, if that magazine is willing to put her on their pages, she must be good.
Right.
Even though my work was on my website, right?
Right.
And I always say, and I feel very passionate about marketing. I love marketing, but it doesn't matter how good you are if nobody knows you exist.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you could be the best kept secret in town. No one knows who you are and what you do and how you're, serving the world and what your offering is. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're kind to boot, then, the world's your oyster. That's awesome.
Yes, I agree.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Natalie. Can you remind everybody where they can find you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. You can find us on our website at www.adesignpartnership.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Well, there you have it, guys. Natalie has so much experience. I still cannot believe that she built her interior design business and she actually sold it. How many of you would like to do that? I didn't really get into asking her, was she kind of pseudo-retired? How cool is that? Everybody wants an exit plan. And I love her book recommendation. I'm definitely going to get it. It's called Built to Sell. We will include all of the links for Natalie, her company, and her downloads in the show notes. So please go check it out. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Let me know, is there something more specifically that you would like answered when it comes to press and PR? Drop a note in the Designer Meetup Facebook group. And as always, can you guys share this podcast? If this was useful, share it with a friend, maybe another designer colleague or entrepreneur who is looking to get featured or maybe just looking to grow their business. The more you guys spread the word about the podcast, the more people we can help. And feel free to leave a 5-star review in iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this podcast. That's it. Have a great day and I'll see you soon.